moments that you've had since your dad passed away where you were like, there was a light bulb that went off somehow?
I think a lot of times I'll have those moments of, epiphanies or whatever you want to call them. We kind of talked about painting, but another thing too is journaling, writing. A lot of healing can come from, I think, from writing your feelings out. So I do try to do that too.
Can I ask, like, what your journaling process is? Like, do you pick something specific to focus on? Do you just kind of freestyle, free associate? Do you have a specific journal that you only write in? I'm just curious what you do.
A little bit of both. I do like to freestyle, but I also made up this journal that's sort of a daily planner too. So it's like you can put your appointments in for your day. Mm-hmm. Like you can kind of jot down the things that you're doing that day, and then I'll have a section that says, did you do something kind today for someone else? And I'll write a little bit about that. And then I leave a section for freestyle writing, just whatever. But it's funny. I'm gonna pull it out really quick so I can answer that question well. And I have it right here. Hang on. Yeah, so I kind of made up my own, but yeah. So I have it says appointments. And that's where I write down my appointments, and then I have thoughts, prayers, thankfulness. And so then I'll write about thoughts, prayers, or thankfulness. And then I even have a section for chores, like little things I want to get done. Uh-huh. And then I have a section that says, did you do something creative? And then I have a little section that says something inspirational that happened or was learned. And then I have a section that says, did you do something physical? Activity or exercise, which is almost always left blank. Oh no! Just being honest. I need to work on that.
Keep it real.
I gotta work on that. Oh, and then I have a section that says, how did you spend time with family today? And I think I have a section that's, did anything happen today that was upsetting, disappointing? Write it out, let it go. So, wow. I kind of just threw a ton of information, but it's sort of I guess I just made up my own journal, and I made a binder for it, and I don't know. I guess that's just sort of my writing process. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
You're unique, Jenean. No, but that's so cool. You got your own little action planner journal.
I'm just laughing because as I was telling you about it and I'm looking at it, it's always blank on the physical activity. So I'm like, oh man, I got to work on that.
Look, it's almost 2019. We got some aspirational goals to work toward. That's your resolution.
Yes.
No, but that's so cool. And I think that goes in line with your creativity. Just being creative and coming up with those things that you really want to be intentional. You see how I put that up in there? Just being intentional about what you want to write about. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Now I got another.
Oops. Got a little call. Disregard that, y'all. Okay, so as our time is kind of winding down, so I want to make sure we get everything in. But I think the only other thing, because we've kind of talked about nowness at the beginning, the only other thing that we really haven't touched upon is just the openness. So practicing really being vulnerable with other people and sharing your story, a la Brené Brown, have you been able to do that? And if so, I'm wondering what that has been like for you.
just say the question again? Because it went out a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so I was just saying in terms of being open with others about your story, your loss, have you practiced that? And if so, what was that like for you?
It's funny. I think more recently I've practiced that. Yeah, a little bit more recently. I think for a little while it kind of was a little bit more, I don't know, shy or closed off about things. I think there's a lot to be said for when you get into your 40s. You're kind of like, you just don't. Not that you don't care, but you're not afraid to be vulnerable so much anymore, like I was in my 30s and in my 20s. So, I mean, that's, one beautiful thing, I guess, about getting into your 40s is you kind of have more of an ability to be vulnerable, which is kind of a beautiful, nice thing. I guess, it could depend. I mean, I guess it could get ugly, but
right.
But it could be like a really positive thing. So that I'm still kind of like, I think that's still a little bit of a new thing for me, where I'm like being vulnerable and I'm like actually like okay with it. Whether I'm like talking with someone about something or I think I'm just more okay with it. I'm not like, hiding behind things or like trying to be strategic in how I say things or, you know what I mean? Like, when you're younger, you worry about that stuff. You
overthink it and overanalyze it, right?
Yeah, and I think as you get older, you're like, I don't really care. I mean, this is what's going on. I'm going to say it, and if this person doesn't like me, I'm okay with that. That's okay. It's not a bad, horrible thing if somebody doesn't like you,
Right.
It's all right.
Right.
I got other friends.
I got friends and family, right. I'll be good. Yeah, and, honestly, like when I think about being open, that's really how we connected. Even for this podcast, which is we were just talking, and now granted there may have been a bottle of wine or two, but it just helped to open up the conversation about the losses that we shared in common, and it's just a beautiful thing in terms of you feel out. Like sometimes you don't even need to or want to open up to certain people, and other times it's okay. Like you know that there's a person who will get it.
Yeah. Well, and it goes back to, our favorite word, intentional. I think you have to be intentional with who you surround yourself with, too, because you need to be around people that are like-minded, where you share the same not only interests and everything, but even how you kind of see the world and how you relate to things, and all of that becomes so important. I wish I could go back to my younger self, and kind of like talk to that person and give her some advice.
What would you say to her? What would you say to her?
Oh, I would say so many things to her, but I mean, as far as like being vulnerable and stuff like that, I would definitely say you need to not worry about it so much and pick people in your life, that get you and that you get, that you're connected with. I think I made that mistake a lot when I was younger. It was, I think that's what happens though when you're younger. You don't have the wherewithal, to really understand. Yeah, so now it's like everything in my life is intentional. Everything, anything pertaining to my work is very intentional. The friendships I have are very intentional. I mean, right down to like just the littlest thing. And I got to tell you, it's making my life a lot easier. And when it comes to things like loss and all of that, it's just more helpful. So I think the word intentional is probably one of the best words. I really, really like that word.
That's going to be in the title of your podcast, right? I'm going to figure out a way to say something about this being intentional. It's only right.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's just a great word, but it's so true.
Yeah, and like you said, just being intentional in your whole process, your healing, your growth, your relationships, your this, your that, it really helps to give you direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even little things like, I was talking not too long ago to a friend who didn't want to she didn't want to do something. She didn't want to involve herself in a situation, and she was struggling with it. And I said, then don't. If it's going to make you feel bad, don't. Don't go. You're not a bad person. You don't have to do this. If it's going to set you back emotionally and make you feel bad, don't go.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
It's really pretty simple.
Yeah. But see, there you go. So that's what we do to ourselves. We put guilt and all these other burdens and crap on ourselves. Why do we do that? Take a hot bath. You don't have to do all of these things.
Right. I went to a seminar like not too long ago, and the guy was like, guilt is useless. Like, it doesn't stop people from doing certain things. Like, it just keeps us stuck. Like,
right.
Just take a hot bath, like you said. Go journal. Go listen to some good music. Go do a Janet Jackson kickstep.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. But you don't have to do. I mean, of course, there are some things that you need to show up for, and you have to kind of get over it. But there's a lot of things in life that you don't have to do, and it's really okay.
Mm-hmm. It's okay. It is okay. The world will keep spinning.
I think she was a little surprised. She was like telling me. I said, "Don't go. Just don't go. Go take a hot bath. Yep. Put some little Epsom salts in there. You're fine. You don't need to go."
You mean it's that easy? And even like when I'm thinking about loss too, like we tend to overcomplicate what we're feeling in those moments. And sometimes because they're confusing, right? And they're overwhelming or they're new. But sometimes even when we try to explain it to other people, my thing is we don't always have to explain it. Like, if you don't feel like getting out of bed or you don't feel like going to work because you have a mental health day that you need, just tell people you're not feeling well. That's it. If you want to explain more. But you only say what you need to say, and that's it. We tend to like over-explain ourselves sometimes. We don't need to.
Yeah. You're right. You don't. You really don't. You're allowed to have those, moments where you just, like you said, sometimes when you're grieving and you're experiencing loss, you're going to be so sad that it's really hard to get out of bed on some days. And you know what? I would say if that was going on for months, that's probably a really big thing that you should, really look at. But I would say it's probably normal to have days like that. And maybe the best way to help yourself is to be like super gentle with yourself and just kind of say, you know what, today I'm going to allow myself to just watch a movie, and I'm going to take a hot bath, and I'm going to stay in bed, and I'm going to take today to do that. Then tomorrow you may feel better,
That is it. It's all about practicing self-compassion and self-forgiveness and just being gentle, like you said. That's perfectly put.
And that's another good... See, and that's my other favorite word is gentle.
Yeah. We like gentle.
I like intentional and I like gentle.
What about gentle
I think
intention?
those are my two... Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking those are my two favorite words right now. Gentle and intentional.
I love it. All right, so Jenean,
and you have to do that for yourself.
You do. Here's the deal, because we're coming to the end. So what I want to do is, can you let the people know, like, any resources or anything that might help them in their healing process? In addition, I should say, in addition to being gentle and intentional.
Right. Well, there's always those two things. Of course, be gentle with yourself. Be intentional with everything in your life, your personal life, your business life.